Far away from Earth, deep in space, there was a small mining colony orbiting a cold, lifeless planet. This place was dark and quiet, with huge machines that dug deep into the planet's surface to collect rare minerals. People worked hard there, but it was not a place for visitors. It was a secret place where no one looked for hope or dreams. In this lonely colony lived a special prisoner. She was not an ordinary person. She was a princess from another planet, a faraway world called Ilaris. Her name was Elira. Long ago, she had been the future queen of a great and peaceful empire that ruled many planets. Her people loved her, and she had a kind heart. But now she was trapped, forgotten, and left to suffer. The people who captured her were cruel and greedy. They wanted to use her as a prize to trade for power and money. They locked her in a small, cold cage inside the mining colony. The cage was made of thick metal bars, and it was chained tightly so she could not escape. She was watched every moment by armed guards who never showed her kindness. They only saw her as an object, not a person. Elira's once bright eyes became tired and dull. She stopped hoping for rescue. She stopped talking because she thought no one would listen. The princess who once dreamed of peace now dreamed only of freedom. But her voice was silent, and her spirit was broken. Days turned into weeks, weeks into months, and months into years. No one came to save her. No one even knew she was there. The universe was vast, but for Elira, it felt like she was alone in a dark hole with no way out. Sometimes she would close her eyes and imagine the soft green forests of her home planet or hear the laughter of her family. But when she opened her eyes, the cold metal cage was all she saw. The guards who watched her did not care about her story. They were used to seeing prisoners. They followed orders and never asked questions. Some guards whispered stories about her, calling her the Silent Princess, but no one dared to help. The colony was dangerous, and no one wanted trouble. Elira's health began to fail. The food was bad, and the air was thin. She felt weak, but inside her heart, a tiny flame of hope still flickered. She did not know how long she could last, but she wanted to believe that someday, someone kind would come. Someone who would see her not as a prisoner, but as a person. One day, the colony received news of a new engineer arriving. Engineers were important because they fixed the machines that kept the colony running. This engineer's name was Kai Dawson, a young man from Earth. He was sent for a quick job but had no idea about the secret prisoner. Kai landed on the colony in a small shuttle. He looked around and saw the harsh world of machines and dust. The people were tired and worn, but Kai was curious and kind-hearted. He listened to the workers' stories and felt a strange sadness in the air. While working late one night, Kai heard strange noises coming from a locked part of the colony. He asked questions, but the guards told him to mind his own business. Something about the secret room did not feel right. Kai's curiosity grew stronger. One evening, Kai found a way to enter the forbidden area. He walked quietly through dark halls until he reached a small metal cage. Inside, he saw a girl. Her skin was pale, and her eyes were half closed. She wore simple clothes, but there was something about her that looked royal and special. Kai's heart beat fast. He reached out to her through the bars. At first, she did not respond. But then, she slowly opened her eyes and looked at him. For the first time in a long while, someone had come. Someone who cared. Elira tried to speak, but her voice was weak. Kai listened carefully and promised he would help. He knew it was dangerous, but he could not leave her there. Something inside him told him that saving this lost princess was more important than any job or order. That night, Kai stayed by the cage, talking softly to Elira. He gave her some water and small food he had saved. He told her about Earth, about the blue sky and green trees, hoping to bring her some comfort. Elira's eyes began to shine with hope again. The mining colony continued its noisy work, but inside a small cage, a quiet miracle was happening. The princess, who had given up hope, was starting to believe that rescue was possible, and the young human who showed up instantly was ready to change her fate forever. Kai Dawson was an ordinary man with a big heart. He had grown up on Earth learning how to fix machines and solve problems. When the company sent him to the mining colony, he thought it would be just another job, a short visit, a quick repair, and then back home. But things were about to change in ways he never imagined. From the moment Kai saw the small metal cage and the girl inside it, he felt something pull him closer. She was not like any prisoner he had ever heard about. Her eyes, though tired, had a strange brightness. She looked at him like she had waited forever for someone to care. Kai knew he could not just leave her there. But the colony was full of danger. The guards were strict, and the people in charge did not want anyone to know about the prisoner. Helping her would mean risking his own safety. Still, Kai was determined. At first, he visited Elira in secret. He brought her water and small pieces of food from the kitchen. She was too weak to eat much, but she tried. She told Kai her name softly and told him stories about her home planet, Elaris. It was a beautiful world filled with green forests, crystal lakes, and cities that touched the stars. Her people lived in peace and harmony, and she was the future queen. Kai listened closely. He had never heard such stories before. It made him want to help even more. Elira's words filled him with hope and courage. As days passed, Kai worked quietly to understand the colony's security systems. He watched the guards' schedules and studied the cameras. He realized that if he wanted to help Elira escape, he would need a careful plan. The syndicate running the colony was strong and dangerous, and one mistake could cost them both their lives. Kai also found an old drone left behind in one of the abandoned halls. The drone was broken and covered with dust, but Kai was good with machines. He repaired it and made it work again. This little drone could fly quietly and send messages. It became their secret helper. Every night, Kai visited Elira. They talked about many things: her family, her dreams, and the stars. Slowly, Elira began to smile again. The chains still held her body, but her heart started to feel free. Kai showed Elira small tools he had brought, and they worked together to find ways to break the chains. It was difficult, and they had to be very careful. The guards watched closely during the day, so all their work was done in the shadows. One evening, Kai told Elira about his plan. He explained how he would use the drone to jam the security cameras and alarms for a short time. Then, they would use the old tunnels beneath the colony to reach the transport hangar where the shuttles were kept. From there, they could steal a shuttle and escape into space. Elira listened with hope and fear. She knew the plan was dangerous. If the guards caught them, there would be no second chance. But the thought of freedom was stronger than the fear. Kai promised he would protect her. "You are not alone anymore," he said. "I will be there for you." As the days passed, they prepared quietly. Kai repaired a small device to block the colony's sensors for a few minutes. He practiced flying the drone and memorized the guards' patrol routes. Elira rested as much as she could, saving her energy for the escape. One night, when the colony was silent and most people were asleep, they were ready. The drone flew ahead, sending signals that confused the cameras and alarms. For a few minutes, the security systems went dark. Kai unlocked the chains holding Elira and helped her stand. Her legs were weak, but she was determined. They moved quickly through the dark tunnels, following the map Kai had memorized. Suddenly, a noise echoed behind them. A guard was coming. They held their breath and hid in a small space until the guard passed. Their hearts were pounding, but they did not stop. After what felt like hours, they reached the transport hangar. Several shuttles were parked there, but only one was unlocked and ready to fly. Kai hurried to the controls and started the engines. Just as they prepared to take off, alarms blared through the colony. Someone had discovered their plan. Guards rushed into the hangar, shouting orders. Kai and Alira had no time to think. They jumped into the shuttle and blasted off, flying through the narrow exit of the colony as guards fired at them. The shuttle shook and sparks flew, but Kai kept control. He aimed for open space and pushed the engines to full power. After a tense chase, they finally left the colony far behind. The stars shone brightly around them, and for the first time in years, Alira felt free. She looked at Kai with tears in her eyes. "Thank you," she whispered. "You saved me." Kai smiled gently. "You saved yourself. I only helped." As they headed toward the unknown, they both knew their lives had changed forever. A human engineer and an alien princess, brought together by chance and courage, now shared a journey full of hope. After escaping the mining colony, Kai and Alira found themselves alone in the vast emptiness of space. The stars twinkled all around them, and the silence was both peaceful and scary. They were safe for now, but they knew this was only the beginning of a much bigger challenge. Alira was still weak from her long captivity. Her body needed rest, and her mind was full of worry. She wondered what would happen next. Would her people believe she was alive? Would the cruel syndicate send ships to find her? Could Kai really help her return home? All these questions ran through her mind. Kai understood her fears. He looked at the controls of the small shuttle, thinking hard. They had escaped the colony, but they needed a safe place to hide and plan their next steps. Kai suggested they head to a nearby space station he had heard about. It was called Orion Outpost, a small but friendly station where travelers could rest and get help. The journey to Orion Outpost was not easy. The shuttle was old and not designed for long trips. Kai had to repair the engines several times along the way. Alira helped as much as she could, learning to trust Kai's knowledge and courage. They shared stories about their worlds and dreams, growing closer with every passing hour. When they finally reached Orion Outpost, they found it busy with different kinds of people from many planets. The station was full of colors, noises, and smells unlike the cold and quiet colony. For Alira, it was like stepping into a new world, one full of hope and life. Kai introduced Alira carefully, making sure no one would recognize her as the princess. They found a small room where she could rest and regain her strength. While Alira slept, Kai went to talk with the station's leader, an older woman named Captain Mira. Captain Mira was kind but cautious. She listened carefully as Kai explained the story, the captive princess, the cruel syndicate, and their escape. At first, she was unsure if the story was true, but when Kai showed the device he used to block security systems and the old royal symbol Alira had hidden in her clothes, Captain Mira began to believe. She promised to help. The Orion Outpost was connected to many networks and could send secret messages across the galaxy. If anyone could reach Alira's people, it was here. Meanwhile, Alira spent her days resting and learning about life outside her prison. She talked with other travelers and heard about the struggles and hopes of many worlds. Slowly, her spirit grew stronger. She found new strength in the kindness of strangers. Kai and Alira spent long hours planning. They knew the syndicate would not give up easily. Ships might be sent to hunt them down, and allies would be needed to fight against the syndicate's power. Kai had an idea. He wanted to build a small, fast ship that could carry them safely through space and help Alira return to her home world. It would take time and resources, but with the help of friends at the outpost, they could do it. Together, they worked on the plans. Alira taught Kai about her people's technology, which was more advanced and elegant than Earth's. Kai shared. his engineering skills, blending Earth technology with what he learned from Elira. During this time, they grew close. Elira admired Kai's bravery and kindness, while Kai was amazed by her strength and wisdom. They were two very different people, but their friendship was becoming something very special. One evening, as they watched the stars from the outpost's observation deck, Elira said quietly, "I never thought I would see the stars again like this." Kai smiled. "You deserve to live among the stars, free and happy." But their peace was short-lived. One day, a warning came from the outpost's security team. A syndicate ship had been spotted near the station. It was searching for the escaped princess. Panic spread quickly, and the station prepared for danger. Kai and Elira knew they had to leave quickly. The small shuttle was not enough for the journey home, but it was all they had. They packed what they could and said goodbye to Captain Mira and their new friends. As they left the outpost behind, Elira looked back with hope. "We will come back," she promised. "We will free my people and bring peace." Kai nodded. "Together, we can do anything." The journey ahead was long and full of dangers, but for the first time in many years, Elira felt hope. Hope that she would see her home again. Hope that kindness and courage could change the universe. And Kai, once an ordinary engineer, was now part of something much greater, a story of bravery, friendship, and a fight for freedom that would shine across the stars. The moment Kai and Elira left Orion Outpost, they knew they were not safe. The Syndicate's ships were fast, and they would not stop searching for the princess. The small shuttle they had was old and slow, but it was all they could use for now. Every second mattered. Kai took control of the ship's engines, pushing them to the limit. The stars blurred as they jumped through space, trying to put as much distance as possible between themselves and their pursuers. Elira sat quietly, her hands trembling slightly. She still felt weak, but her spirit was strong. She trusted Kai, and that gave her hope. Suddenly, alarms began to sound inside the shuttle. Red lights flashed as the sensors detected a ship approaching fast behind them. The Syndicate had found them. Kai's heart raced. "They're catching up," he said, gripping the controls tightly. He tried every trick he knew to increase speed, but the shuttle was old and could not outrun the enemy ship. The Syndicate's ship opened fire, sending bright beams of light toward the shuttle. Explosions shook the small craft, and sparks flew inside the cabin. Kai and Elira held on tightly as the shuttle rocked violently. Kai's mind raced. They could not fight the powerful enemy ship in this weak shuttle. They had to find another way to escape. Looking at the control screen, Kai spotted a nearby asteroid field, a dangerous area full of large rocks and debris. The Syndicate ship might not follow them there, afraid of damage. It was risky, but it might be their only chance. Without hesitation, Kai steered the shuttle toward the asteroid field. The ship flew between the giant space rocks, narrowly avoiding collisions. The chase was tense. Every move had to be perfect. Behind them, the Syndicate ship followed, firing shots that made the rocks around explode. The shuttle shook with every blast. Elira closed her eyes, praying silently. Suddenly, the Syndicate ship hit a large asteroid. The explosion was massive, and pieces of the ship flew in all directions. The enemy ship slowed down, then stopped. Kai breathed a deep sigh of relief. "We lost them," he said, looking over at Elira, who smiled weakly. But the danger was not over yet. The shuttle was damaged, the engines were overheating, and the life support system was failing. They had to find a safe place to land and repair the ship quickly. Kai checked the map and saw a small, abandoned space station nearby. It was not in use, but it had docks and repair facilities. It would be a perfect place to fix the shuttle. They carefully flew to the station and docked the shuttle inside a dark hangar. The station was old and quiet, with broken lights and empty corridors. It felt lonely, but it was safe, for now. Kai and Elira worked together to repair the shuttle. Kai cleaned the engines, fixed the wiring, and checked the life support system. Elira helped by handing him tools and keeping watch. While working, they talked about their dreams and fears. Elira told Kai more about her family, the king and queen of Alaris, her younger brother, and the people who were waiting for her return. She shared stories of her childhood and the peaceful life she once knew. Kai listened closely, feeling honored to hear her memories. He wanted to do everything he could to help her get back home. As the repairs continued, Kai noticed something strange. The abandoned station was not as empty as it seemed. Shadows moved in the dark, and faint noises echoed through the halls. They were not alone. One night, while Kai was working on the shuttle's engines, he heard footsteps behind him. He turned quickly and saw a figure in the shadows. It was a young woman, dressed in worn clothes but with sharp eyes. "Who are you?" Kai asked, surprised. The woman stepped forward. "My name is Lyra," she said softly. "I used to work here before the syndicate took over." Kai explained their situation, careful not to reveal too much. Lyra listened and nodded. She said she wanted to help them. She had friends who were part of a small resistance group fighting against the syndicate in secret. Elira and Kai looked at each other, hope rising again. With Lyra's help, they could get allies and plan a better way to return to Alaris safely. For the next few days, Lyra led them through hidden passages and secret rooms in the station. They met other resistance members, people from many worlds, who had lost loved ones to the syndicate's cruelty. These new friends were brave and kind, ready to fight for freedom. Together they made plans. Kai would finish repairing the shuttle, and when it was ready, they would leave the station. The resistance would help them avoid the syndicate's patrols and send messages to friendly forces. One evening, as they prepared for departure, Elira looked around at her new friends. She felt a deep sense of gratitude. After so much darkness and pain, she had found hope and strength in the kindness of strangers. Kai stood beside her, his hand resting gently on her shoulder. "We will get you home," he promised. Elira smiled, her eyes shining. "And I will never forget the day you showed up." The next morning, they took off from the abandoned station, leaving behind the silence and shadows. Ahead was a long journey filled with dangers and challenges, but also with friendship, courage, and hope. Together, they would face whatever the stars had in store. After leaving the abandoned station, Kai and Elira felt the weight of their journey ahead. The stars outside the shuttle's windows were endless, and so was the challenge they faced. But they carried hope in their hearts. A hope that they could change the future for Elira's people and bring peace to her empire once again. The shuttle flew smoothly through space as Kai worked on its systems. Though it was old, it was their home for now. Elira spent her time learning more about Earth and humans. She told Kai about the traditions of her people and their love for knowledge and peace. Kai shared stories from Earth about its blue skies, vast oceans, and different cultures. Their friendship grew stronger every day. They were no longer just a princess and an engineer. They had become partners, united by a mission bigger than themselves. One day, as they approached a large space station called Nova Haven, they prepared to send a message to Elira's home planet. Nova Haven was known for its powerful communication systems, able to send messages across light years. If her people could hear her voice, they might rally to her cause. Kai carefully set up the transmitter while Elira composed a message. She spoke of her capture, her escape, and her desire to return and restore peace. Her voice was strong, filled with hope and determination. As the message traveled across the stars, Elira felt a mixture of fear and excitement. Would anyone hear her? Would anyone believe? Days passed without a reply. The silence was hard, but Kai reminded her to be patient. He believed the message would reach the right ears in time. While waiting, they explored Nova Haven. The station was alive with travelers, merchants, and diplomats. Elira was amazed at the diversity of life in the universe. She made friends and shared her story with those who would listen. Many offered help, moved by her courage. Then, finally, a message came back. A fleet of ships from her home planet had received her call. The news of the lost princess alive and free spread quickly, bringing hope to many who had given up. The Empire was preparing to welcome her and fight against the Syndicate's tyranny. Elira's heart swelled with joy. Kai smiled beside her, proud and relieved. But the journey was not over. The Syndicate had grown stronger, and their ships blocked many paths. Kai and Elira needed to join the fleet quickly to avoid capture. With help from friends at Nova Haven, they found a faster, stronger ship. Kai learned to pilot it, amazed at its speed and power. Elira's hope burned brighter as they headed toward her home world. The trip was filled with challenges. The Syndicate sent patrols to stop them. Kai used every skill he had learned to avoid traps and dangers. Elira encouraged him, reminding him of the people waiting for her return. Finally, after a long and difficult journey, the fleet reached the orbit of Alaris. The planet below was beautiful. Green forests, shining lakes, and cities sparkling with light. The fleet's arrival was a great event. Ships from many planets came to welcome Elira, the lost princess who had returned. Her people cheered, tears of joy flowing freely. Elira reunited with her family, the king and queen, her brother, and old friends. They embraced her warmly, amazed that she had survived and come back stronger than ever. Kai stood quietly to the side, watching the happy scenes. Elira noticed him and smiled. She walked over and took his hand. "You saved me," she said softly. "And you helped bring me home." Kai shook his head. "You saved yourself. I only helped." The princess and the engineer became symbols of hope and courage. Together, they worked to rebuild the empire and bring peace to the galaxy. Elira often looked back at the stars and remembered the dark days in the cage. She knew that without Kai's kindness and bravery, she might never have survived. Their bond was strong, built on trust, hope, and a shared dream of a better future. And so, the story of the alien princess who had given up hope and the human who showed up instantly became a legend told across the stars, a story of friendship, courage, and the power of never giving up.